My fiancé called me 2 hours before the wedding. I can't go through with this. I replied, thank you for your honesty. Then I walked to the altar anyway, announced the cancellation to 200 guests, and revealed why, including the screenshots of her text to her ex. Her parents' reaction when they saw. Original post. I, 32 male, was supposed to get married 16 days ago. Instead, I'm sitting in what was supposed to be our apartment, alone, writing this because I genuinely don't know how else to process what happened. Let me back up. I met my ex-fiancée 4 years ago at a conference for work. She was in marketing, I'm in supply chain management. We hit it off immediately. She was sharp, funny, could hold a conversation about anything. By our third date, I knew I was in trouble. The good kind, or so I thought. We moved in together after 18 months. Got engaged a year after that. The wedding planning took another 14 months because she wanted a real wedding, 200 guests, open bar, live band, the works. Her parents offered to cover half the costs if we used their preferred vendors. My parents are deceased, so I was funding my half solo. All in, we were looking at around $68,000 for everything. My contribution was roughly $34,000, most of which was non-refundable deposits. Important detail, her ex-boyfriend. They dated for 3 years in their mid-20s. According to her, he was emotionally unavailable and couldn't commit. She ended things, moved on, met me. He got engaged to someone else about a year after we started dating. I never thought much about him. Ancient history, right? 3 months before the wedding, I noticed she was being weird with her phone. Not hiding it exactly, but protective. Turning it face down, taking it to the bathroom, laughing at texts, and then saying it was just her cousin. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not going to pretend I didn't do it. One night while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I know, but my gut was screaming and I couldn't ignore it anymore. What I found, a conversation thread with her ex, hundreds of messages going back 2 months. The tone wasn't friendly. It was intimate. Pet names. I miss you. I think about you constantly. Why didn't we work harder to make it work? And then, the message that made my stomach drop. I don't know if I can go through with it. But I can't back out now. Everyone's expecting this. My parents would disown me. His response, you know where I am when you're ready. I put the phone back. Went to bed. Didn't sleep. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I needed to think, to plan. Because calling off a wedding 3 months out would cost me tens of thousands of dollars in deposits. But more than that, I needed to know if this was a moment of doubt or something deeper. So I waited and watched. Over the next 3 months, I checked her phone maybe 4 more times. The conversations continued. They met for coffee twice. She told me she was seeing her college roommate both times. I confirmed she was lying by checking her location sharing, which she'd forgotten was still active on our shared family plan. 2 weeks before the wedding, the messages got more intense. He told her he was having doubts about his own marriage. She said she was too. They talked about what could have been. She sent him photos of her wedding dress with the caption, "This should have been for you." I screenshotted everything, saved it to a cloud folder, kept my face neutral, kept planning the wedding. Here's the thing people don't understand about betrayal. The moment you discover it, a part of you detaches. You're still there, going through the motions, but there's this cold, observational version of yourself watching from a distance. That version was making plans while the emotional version was drowning. The morning of the wedding, I woke up at 6 a.m. Ceremony was at 2 p.m. I got dressed, went to the venue early to check on setup. Everything was perfect. White chairs, flower arrangements, the art she'd obsessed over for months. At 12:15 p.m., my phone rang. It was her. I can't go through with this. Her voice was shaky. Crying maybe. I stood in the groom's suite, looking at myself in the mirror, already in my suit. Why not? I asked. Calm. Too calm, probably. I'm not sure anymore. About us. About everything. I'm so sorry. I know this is terrible timing. I know. Thank you for your honesty, I said. And I meant it. After 3 months of lies, at least she was finally being honest about something. She went silent. I think she expected me to argue, to beg, to ask what she needed. Instead, I said, guests are already arriving. What do you want me to tell them? I don't know. Can you just handle it? Tell them I'm sick or something. I'll handle it, I said, and hung up. I sat with that for about 10 minutes. My best man came in, saw my face, asked what was wrong. I told him, showed him some of the screenshots. He went pale. What are you going to do? I'm going to handle it. At 2 p.m., I walked to the altar. 200 people were seated. Her family on one side, my friends and extended family on the other. Her parents were in the front row, beaming. Her maid of honor was standing up front, looking confused because the bride wasn't there. I stepped up to the microphone we'd set up for the ceremony. Thank you all for coming. I know you're expecting a wedding today. Unfortunately, there isn't going to be one. Murmurs. Gasps. Her mother's face went from confused to concerned. About 2 hours ago, my fiancée called me to say she couldn't go through with this. I want to be clear. This isn't a case of cold feet. This is a case of her having an ongoing emotional affair with her ex-boyfriend for the past 3 months. I have the messages. I have the proof. Dead silence now. Her father stood up. What the hell are you doing? I'm telling the truth. Something your daughter hasn't done in months. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the venue's projection system, something we'd set up for a slideshow during the reception. I'd prepared a presentation. 6 screenshots, the most damning ones. Her telling him she wished her wedding dress was for him. Him saying he'd leave his wife if she said the word. Her saying she was only going through with the wedding because she was too embarrassed to back out. I didn't show everything, just enough. Her mother started crying. Not the my poor daughter crying. The oh my God, this is really happening crying. Her father looked like he wanted to hit me, but couldn't decide if I deserved it. The maid of honor ran out, probably to find my ex-fiancée. I turned off the projection. I'm sorry you all traveled here for nothing. The bar is paid for through 6 p.m. if anyone wants to stay. I'm going home. And I left. My best man drove me back to the apartment. I sat on the couch and didn't move for about 3 hours. My phone exploded. Messages from everyone. Her family calling me every name imaginable. Some of my family saying I went too far. A few friends saying they couldn't believe what they'd witnessed. And one text from her ex's wife. Is this real? Please tell me this isn't real. I sent her the full folder. Update 1, 4 days later. So the fallout has been significant. Let me start with the immediate aftermath. That night, my ex-fiancée showed up at the apartment. She'd been at her parents' house, apparently, having a complete meltdown after the maid of honor told her what I did. She didn't knock, just used her key and walked in. I was sitting on the couch, hadn't moved much, still in my dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. How could you do that to me? She screamed. Actually screamed. In front of everyone? In front of my family. I looked at her. How could you do what you did? For 3 months? While I was planning our wedding. That's different. I was confused. I was having doubts. That doesn't give you the right to humiliate me. You were sexting your ex and telling him your wedding dress should have been for him. That's not confusion. That's betrayal. She started crying. The ugly kind. Sat down on the floor because her legs gave out. I didn't sleep with him. Nothing physical happened. I was going to end it. I was going to go through with the wedding and cut him off completely. And I was supposed to just marry you not knowing any of this? Live my life with someone who was emotionally checked out? That's what you wanted from me. She didn't have an answer for that. I told her to take what she needed and leave. She grabbed some clothes, her laptop, and toiletries. Left her key on the counter without me asking. The next few days were a blur of texts and calls. Her mother called me 3 times. First call was pure rage. How dare I embarrass her daughter, ruin her reputation, air dirty laundry in public. Second call was more measured, asking if we could talk, if there was a way to fix this narrative. Third call, I answered. What do you want? I asked. I want to understand why you did it that way. You could have just called it off. Said she was sick. Anything else? Because she asked me to lie for her, to tell everyone she was sick, to cover up for her so she could walk away clean while I looked like the jilted groom. After 3 months of her lying to my face, I wasn't going to do that. She was quiet for a long time. Then I didn't know. About the messages. I didn't know what she was doing. Most people don't know when someone's lying to them. I didn't either until I did. She hung up. Didn't call again. Her father was a different story. He showed up at my workplace. Just walked into the lobby and asked to see me. Security called up, and my boss, who'd heard the basics by then, asked if I wanted him escorted out. I said no. Went down to meet him. He looked tired, older than I remembered. "I'm not here to yell at you," he said. "I'm here because I need to know something. Was any of it real? Did you ever actually love my daughter? Or was this whole thing a setup to humiliate her?" That one stung, because I did love her, more than I'd ever loved anyone. I spent $34,000 on a wedding for a woman I wanted to spend my life with. I found out 3 months ago she was emotionally cheating on me. I stayed quiet because I was trying to figure out if it was real or just pre-wedding jitters. It was real. She was planning to leave me for him eventually. And when she finally admitted she couldn't go through with it, she asked me to lie to 200 people to protect her image. I wasn't going to do that. He nodded slowly. "I'm not going to apologize for her. What she did was wrong. But what you did, that was cruel. Maybe, but it was honest." And after 3 months of lies, honesty was the only thing I had left. He left without another word. Meanwhile, the ex-boyfriend's wife. She's been in contact with me. Turns out she had no idea about any of this. Her husband told her he was reconnecting with an old friend, and she thought nothing of it. When I sent her the screenshots, she confronted him. He admitted to everything. They're separating. She thanked me for telling her. Said she'd rather know than live in ignorance. At least someone got closure. As for the money, I'm out about $28,000 in non-refundable deposits. The venue, the catering, the florist, the photographer who showed up and took pictures of an empty altar. Her parents are refusing to cover their half now, saying I sabotaged the wedding. My lawyer says I could sue for their portion, but honestly, I don't have the energy. I'd rather just eat the loss and move on. Some of the vendors were sympathetic. The band refunded half their deposit because the lead singer said he'd never heard of anything like this before and felt bad. Small mercies. My ex has been posting on social media vague stuff about surviving narcissistic abuse and knowing your worth after someone tries to destroy you. Her friends are commenting support. A few mutual acquaintances have unfollowed me, probably believing her version. I haven't posted anything, haven't defended myself publicly. The people who were there know what happened. The people who weren't can believe whatever they want. Update 2, 2 weeks later. Things have escalated in ways I didn't expect. First, my ex hired a lawyer. Not to sue me. Apparently what I did doesn't meet the legal threshold for defamation since everything I said was true, but to send me a cease and desist letter demanding I refrain from further distribution of private communications. Translation: she's scared I'm going to post the screenshots online. I wasn't planning to. The wedding reveal was enough. But now I have a formal legal document telling me not to do something I wasn't going to do anyway. My lawyer responded with a polite acknowledgement and pointed out that the messages in question were evidence of infidelity that occurred during our engagement and that I had no obligation to protect her privacy regarding conduct that directly affected me. Her lawyer didn't respond. Second, her family has been busy. Her brother showed up at a bar where my friends and I sometimes hang out. Didn't approach me directly, just sat at the other end and stared. My buddy noticed and asked if we should leave. I said no. We're not doing anything wrong. After about an hour, he walked over. "You ruined her life? You know that? She can't show her face anywhere. People at her job found out. Her friends are treating her different. All because you couldn't handle rejection like a man." I took a sip of my beer. She ruined her own life by having an emotional affair while planning a wedding. I just didn't cover for her. You could have been decent about it. You could have kept it private. She could have not cheated. We all make choices. He looked like he wanted to throw a punch. My friend stood up. He backed off, muttered something about karma, and left. I told my buddies I didn't want to come back to that bar for a while. Not worth the drama. Third thing, and this is the one that actually got to me. I ran into her aunt at a grocery store. Completely random. She was in the produce section. I was grabbing milk. We made eye contact. This aunt had always been nice to me. She'd given us a beautiful hand-knitted blanket as an engagement gift. Told me once that she was glad her niece had finally found a good one. She walked over slowly. I braced myself for another confrontation. Instead, she said, "I'm not going to pretend I understand why you did it the way you did. But I read those messages." She showed them to the family, trying to make it seem like you took things out of context. She didn't realize some of us would actually read them. She paused. What she did was wrong. and I think you deserve better than to find out like that. I'm sorry it happened. That cracked something in me. I've been holding it together for weeks, running on cold logic and justified anger. But genuine sympathy from an unexpected source broke through. I thanked her. She touched my arm briefly and walked away. Cried in my car for about 15 minutes after that. First time since everything happened. Fourth, the ex-boyfriend situation. His wife officially filed for divorce. She's been keeping me updated, not in a weird way, but in a we're both casualties of the same mess kind of way. Apparently, he tried to blame me for manufacturing evidence and manipulating his wife. When that didn't work, he tried to claim he and my ex were just talking and that the romantic stuff was taken out of context. His wife showed him the message where my ex said the wedding dress should have been for him. What context makes that okay? She asked him. He didn't have an answer. Here's the part that really got me, though. According to his wife, after everything blew up, my ex reached out to him, asked if they could finally be together now that everything's out in the open. He said no, told her the fantasy was over, that he wasn't going to leave his stable life for someone who'd been lying to everyone, that he needed to focus on saving his marriage. She got dumped by the guy she blew up her life for, the guy who'd been telling her for months that he'd be there when she was ready. I'd feel bad for her if she hadn't put me through hell. The ex-boyfriend's wife didn't save the marriage, by the way. She said his cowardice at the end, trying to blame everyone else, and then not even following through with my ex, showed her exactly who he was. I'd rather be alone than with someone who can't even commit to his own betrayal, she told me. Respect. Final update, 3 weeks later. I'm writing this final update because there's been a resolution of sorts, and I think the story needs an ending. First, the financial stuff. My ex's family finally agreed to reimburse their half of the wedding costs. Not because they felt bad, her father made that clear, but because their lawyer apparently advised them that if I pursued it legally, the screenshots would become part of discovery and therefore public record. They paid up to avoid further embarrassment. So I'm out about $14,000 instead of $28,000. Still a lot, but manageable. I'm treating it as the cost of learning who I was actually engaged to. Second, the apartment. She officially moved out. Came by with her cousin while I was at work, took all her stuff, left a note that said, "I hope one day you understand that what you did was just as wrong as what I did." I threw it away. I understand plenty. The lease renewal is coming up. I'm not staying here. Too many memories. Found a one-bedroom closer to downtown. Smaller, but it's mine. Moving next weekend. Third, and this is the part I've been processing for days. My ex asked to meet. Sent a text saying she needed closure and wanted to talk one last time, without lawyers or family involved. I almost said no, but something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. Maybe for my own closure. We met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. She looked different, thinner, tired, like she'd been through something. Which I suppose she had. She sat down and started immediately. I'm not here to apologize. I mean, I am sorry, but I know an apology isn't going to fix anything. I just needed you to know that I didn't plan for any of this to happen. The messages didn't write themselves. I know, but it started as just talking. We ran into each other randomly, and it was like no time had passed. I told myself it was harmless, that I could have my old feelings and my new life at the same time. You told him your wedding dress should have been for him. That's not harmless. She winced. I know how it looks. I was confused. I was terrified of making the wrong choice. And instead of talking to you about it, I ran to someone familiar. You could have talked to me at any point. You could have told me you were having doubts. I would have listened. Would you? Really? 3 months before our wedding, if I'd said, "I'm not sure about us," would you have actually heard that? Or would you have tried to fix it and convince me everything was fine? That landed harder than I expected. Because honestly, I don't know. I like to think I would have listened, but maybe she's right. Maybe I would have gone into problem-solving mode instead of actually hearing her. That doesn't excuse what you did, I said finally. No, it doesn't. But I needed you to know it wasn't about not loving you. It was about being too scared to be honest until it was too late. I sat with that for a minute. The way you ended things, calling me 2 hours before the ceremony, asking me to lie to everyone, that's what I can't forgive. You were going to let me stand up there and tell 200 people you had the flu. Make me complicit in your lie. I know. I panicked. I wasn't thinking about you in that moment. I was thinking about myself. That's the part I'm most ashamed of. She didn't ask me to forgive her. Didn't ask if we could be friends. Just said what she needed to say and waited. I hope you figure out what you actually want, I said. Because it wasn't me, and apparently it wasn't him either. She nodded. He told me he couldn't leave his wife, even after she filed for divorce. Said it was too complicated now that everything was public. Sounds like he was never going to choose you. No, he wasn't. I see that now. She finished her coffee, gathered her things. For what it's worth, you were a good partner. I was just too broken to appreciate it. She left. I sat there for another hour, thinking, here's the thing about this whole mess. I don't feel like the hero of this story. Some people have called me brave for exposing her at the altar. Others have called me cruel. The truth is somewhere in between. I was hurt and angry, and I made a choice that maximized her consequences while giving me the satisfaction of not lying for her. Was it the right choice? I honestly don't know. Some days I feel vindicated. Other days I wonder if I could have handled it differently. More privately, less publicly. But then I remember the way she asked me to lie. The way she spent 3 months choosing someone else while planning a future with me. And I think, no, she made her choices. I made mine. We both have to live with them. I'm moving into the new apartment next weekend. Already bought a new couch. Signed up for a cooking class because I've been eating takeout for a month and my body is starting to protest. The ex-boyfriend's wife texted me yesterday. Said her divorce is moving forward and she's doing okay. We might grab lunch sometime. Not romantic, just two people who got blindsided by the same situation, finding some weird solidarity in that. My friends have been solid. They don't bring it up unless I do, but they're there. That matters more than I expected. I'm not happy yet, but I'm not drowning either. Just existing day by day, figuring out who I am without the life I thought I was building. Someone told me that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I'm not there yet with my ex, but I can feel myself moving toward it, slowly. One day, she'll just be someone I used to know. For now, that's enough.